We are always different in terms of creation. Oh, creation we are the same, but in terms of way of life, we are always different. And now, when we talk of temperaments and personalities, at the end of the lesson or at the end of the session, we may need to understand who are we and how are we able to relate with others. Can you be able to understand this person? Can you be able to understand the other person? Can you be able to understand yourself? So at the end of that day, we are going to see how can I relate with another person? How can I be able to tolerate someone that I may feel that person is intolerable? But you get to understand that after some time, you just need to learn this person. So that's why in our master guide we try to understand how we can live with each other. Because if Christ was not able to understand us all, it wouldn't have been easy for him to redeem us. But he knew that human beings he created, that we are bound to do what? To sin. That's why he had the plan of salvation at first, even before sin came into the world. He knew at any one moment that might happen. So now why we try to understand this, why we try to go through this, is simply to get us to a point of knowing ourselves and knowing who we are. Are we together? So an exploration through the personalities and four temperaments that we're going to look at. I may talk about some few items, but studying does not end. I may have made a simple summary of what we may need to learn, but you can still go ahead to further do what? Read and understand how I can relate with each other. So, the intentions of this presentation, one, is to introduce the principles of the four temperaments and show how an understanding of them can help one appreciate our cultures and what? And peoples. So in that same case, we are going to know that this presentation will provide an exposure to the important what? Underlying aspects of personalities and understand how these may do what? How these may relate and build upon the four temperaments. So we shall be able to understand what are the four temperaments that we need to know, and then what are the personalities that we're going to talk about. We get? It's going to be an interactive class because we are all different. And at the end of the day, we were supposed to have a test, like an MBTI test, to know how do I stand, but you cannot do it when the class is what? Few. At least we shall get one moment, say a Sabbath evening, when we are quite many. Then we try to do that test to know how, like to know each other's what? Personality. It's always a personal test, but when you take time to understand and then having a clear explanation with a bigger class, it is always nice that you get to learn. Even you might have done a test at the end of the day, but what you might have ticked, other people do not see that in you. So when you have quite a bigger number of people, they get to give out their opinions, and then you give in your opinions. At the end of the day, you appreciate that you are who you are because other people have identified you the way you are, and you can be able to identify another person because of the way they are. So we are both physical and non-physical. That is what you need to first understand. And the physical aspects are always concerned with what we see, what we taste, what we hear, what we smell and touch. That is the physical aspect of us. You can be able to taste, you can be able to smell, you can be able to hear, you can be able to see something. And then the non-physical aspects are the subtle faculties of mind, intellect, and personality, whereby these ones are always generated within the body. You always generate them within you, that what you think, what you purpose to do, a person may not physically know, but in your mind you're able to do what? To think about it and then act. That is an non-physical aspect. So this cannot be measured by physical instruments the same way we measure the physical aspects. A person can realize that I'm touching on a phone, and then that person will know either I'm going to make a call or I'm going to do what? To read a message, or I'm going to do something else. But when I just sit and look at you, you may not be able to read my mind because you actually do not know what is in the mind. So you cannot measure it. You cannot look at me and say, now I think you've thought about 10 items, because you cannot read the mind. So that is the non-physical aspect. So the true self functions at different levels simultaneously. That is the mind, where that is the thinking faculty. Then the intellect, it is used to assess what? The thoughts. And the subconscious mind, that is the home of habits, the personality traits, then the instincts, beliefs, values, emotional temperaments, all those fall under the subconscious what? Mind. And now you're going to see that man responds to the environment in 4 ways. Now when I talk about man, I mean us. We respond to the environment in 4 different what? Different ways. Whereby, first of all, you're going to respond to the environment through thinking. Your thinking will have an impact on what? On your response to the environment. Then next, the feeling. How you feel about something will also determine, or will also define, how you're going to respond to the environment. Then sensation. How do you sense something? How do you perceive? How do you internalize that what? That idea. Then lastly, or the fourth is intuition. These are the 4 ways that man is responding to what? To the environment. But all these 4 are going to be governed by what we call the ego. Or your what? Your inner self, or your emotions. All these are going to be controlled by what? By that. So these 4 all rotate up around the what? The ego as the center. So you're going to find that your ego will control your response in thinking, your intuition, then your feeling, and then your what? Your sensation. Let us look at them in brief. We have 4 people that we are going to look at. First, the thought-oriented person, that is the person who is going to respond. The thinking is now, the thinking aspect is now coming in this what? Moment. A person who responds through thinking, how are you going to identify that this person, now his ego is trying to take him in the direction of what? Of thinking. A person who is thought-oriented, like his behaviors or his way of living is minding about thought. Like the thought controls his way of behavior. We term him as a thought-oriented person. And now you're going to see that this person is going to be interested in systems, structures, and patterns. That is how his life is going to be governed. Are we together? Then that person is going to be exposed, he's going to be exposed always to things that need logical analysis. Remember, he's using more of his mind to internalize stuff. So he's always exposed to things in a logical analysis way. And then this person is relatively cold and unemotional. Because of the way of thinking, he will be relatively cold and unemotional. He's not always affected. Like a person who is, we shall say a person who is like sensitive. His emotions are going to be always driven to something that is happening. But this person who is using more of the brain thinking, emotions are always not to think that after all you may do something wrong. He won't think about it, he won't be so much touched. He'll just know, I have to think outside that. You get? And that person who is thought-oriented also, He can evaluate things by intellect and right and wrong. At times, because he overthinks about something, his way of now reacting to something may either be right or what? Or wrong. They have difficulties in talking about feelings. These people who are always thought oriented. Remember, we are trying to understand who we are. And they do not like to clear up arguments or quarrels. Remember, we shall see what type of temperament or what person likes to clear up quarrels or arguments. But now a person who is thought-oriented, they do not like to clear up arguments or quarrels. They always want to have that continuation. Why? Why are they driven that way? They think whenever you're continuing in a quarrel or in an argument, it is giving them time to think about what is actually causing that argument. And can they really internalize what you are arguing about, such that they can draw up their conclusion at the end of the day? Because they are using more of thinking about what you're arguing to have them understand what actually is boiling up the situation. You get? That is a thought-oriented person. Now we have a feeling-oriented person. When a person is feeling-oriented, this person is going to be interested in people and their feelings. Are we together? So they easily pass their moods to others. I believe you can now try to imagine, as we're studying, try to imagine of somebody of such orientation. Remember, we said it's going to be at a lesson that you are now trying to understand each other. Try to think of that one person who is feeling oriented, that he's interested in people and their feelings, easily pass their moods to others. It's a person whereby if he's sad or if she's sad, she wants to feel sad too. You get? Then also they pay great attention to love and passion. If a person is feeling what? Oriented. And they can be touchy and use emotional manipulation. It is at a point that you can look at this person or that person can be around you. And the way they behave can really push you to either come closer to that person and you feel touched or you feel the same way they are. Just because the way they've presented themselves, it has now attracted you. And for them, that's what they love. Because they use that emotion to manipulate your minds. You get? They often give compliments to please people. These are what? Feeling-oriented people. They often give compliments to please people. They'll always tell you what they see. You get? That is a feeling-oriented person. Are we clear about the first two that we've talked about? Then we have the sensation-oriented person. This person sees everything and senses everything. So for them, whatever they see, they can sense out something from that. They live in the here and now. There are people who can sense that if let's take a scenario, if I am seated in a class that is noisy, I can live within that class because I know after a certain period of time I'm going to move out. So for them, they are going to live in that moment. So they live at that, they can tolerate that class at that moment, knowing that after a certain period of time I'm going to move out of that. So they live in the here and now moments. And they quickly adapt to any situation. So these are the hard guys you say. You can even send him to say an island. He'll easily adapt to that area because he knows I'm just going to be here for a while. So I have to just adapt. I live there for now. Tomorrow I will be out. These are the sensation what? Oriented people. And they like pleasure based on physical sensation. Because they are living in the present situation and the now life, they enjoy their life and they know, let me enjoy today, let me enjoy now. Tomorrow will bring its own issues. These are the sensation what? Oriented people. And they are practical and active because they know I'm living, for now I'm living here. Now let me use all what I have now to feel that I'm happy and actively participative in such a what? In such a situation. We get? And because of all that, they are always going to be realistic and self-confident. So they openly tell you, I'm not enjoying this, I'm enjoying this. And they'll be real. You're boring, they'll tell you, man, you're boring us. Because for them, what are they looking at? I'm living present and I want to enjoy my life now. So for you to present an issue of, you make my life hard today, tomorrow you're going to make it better. They don't like that. They just say, I'm enjoying today, tomorrow we'll cater for it. What? Those are the sensation-oriented what? People. Now we have these people, we call them intuition-oriented. Intuitive in a way that they are mostly in the past or in the future. Have you ever seen such a person? Or have you ever had a person of that nature?
Mostly the old people. Mostly the old people. Like if you stay with
The old people.
old people, they will always tell you what will happen in the future and how they have been in the past.
It may not even be in the old people only. Even some of us currently. Remember, all these are going to drive us to that 4 temperaments. We are going to look at a group of people who are driven by this. Remember, the intuitive person or the intuition-oriented person is different from a thought-oriented what? Person. In a way that the intuitive person, remember, okay, what is intuition? If we can define that, then we can be able to know. What is intuition? Anyone who can define it? Or how do you understand when somebody talks about intuition? Somebody who depends on events. Any other definition? Okay, when we say that this person is intuition oriented, intuition itself, it means that if one is intuitive, he's spontaneous in a way of acting whereby he does not take a lot of thought to think about a situation. Remember, a thought-oriented person, he takes moments to do what? To think about a certain situation. Are we together? Then, this intuitive person, for them they are always spontaneous, like the way they act, it is immediate. You know, acting and thinking are different. Acting first and then thinking about it is also something different. The thought-oriented person will first think about a situation. Then this intuitive-oriented person is not going to think about something so hard. Are we together? So for them, they are...
Whatever the intuition is saying, having the ability to know or understand things without any proof or evidence.
So for them, they are always going to be in such a situation that the past was like this. They don't take time to understand the past was that way, but the present may not be like the past. And they believe that the future will always be the what? Like the past. Are we together? So these people are mostly in the past or in the future in their way of life. They've never thought of the present, or they always think less about the what? The present. These are the people you're going to find they even fail to move on in some moments. You find them that they are going to overthink about what happened to them in the past. They might think it will be the same today and tomorrow. Are we together? And another thing is that because of that, now they are going to worry about the future more than the present. I think we've explained that. And they are interested in everything new and unusual. Those are the intuition-oriented what? People. They do not like routine. Why? Remember, when you have routine, you're going to follow it. But because they know things were not like that, they think about the past and the future. They know things are going to what? To change. So they don't like routine. Attracted more to the theory than practice. These people attracted more to the theory than what? Than practice, because they do not like routine. So they often fail to put into action what they have learned. Are we together? Are we trying to get something? Often that leads them to have what? Doubts in whatever they are doing. So those are the 4 people that we can first have a talk about as we head into personalities. Yes.
Is it okay? It's can someone have the 2 personalities?
No, those are not personalities.
Okay, like can someone be 2 of the things?
Yeah, they can. Because we said all these 4 are governed by our ego. A person can be intuitive at one moment, can be thoughtful at one moment. It can be in a situation whereby it is not going to be sensitive or sensational. And then also, at one moment, that person is going to be what? Feeling oriented. So it is always driven by our emotions. You can be any of the 4. You get? Though it is rare for you to have all, but at least somewhere, somehow, you can be driven. You can be active. What we can talk about is, an example is, you can be a happy person, and everyone knows. Humble is always happy. He always lives in the present. You get? We've never seen him sad. You get? God forbid the mother dies or the father dies. He's going to sit somewhere and now begin thinking, how am I going to survive? How am I going to take care of this? How am I going to do this? If mom was there, if dad was there, if this hadn't happened, if this hadn't, are you seeing that now your ego is pushing you to change because of a situation that you're in? After a while, things have now backfired. The happy humble you knew is now being this person who is seated always somewhere, just in thoughts, thinking about how life will be. How will it be in the future? Because he's thinking about how it was in the what? Are we getting something from that? So these orientations can change, but at least everyone has some orientation, has a way he's oriented in performing something different. So we're now going to look at defining the temperament, the character, and personality in details. When you look at, remember all these were trying to define to us how are we oriented before we get to our personalities, then our different temperaments. When we look at temperaments, it's a combination of inborn traits that subconsciously affect man's what? Man's behavior. So these traits are arranged genetically on the basis of nationality, race, sex, and other hereditary factors. So these traits can be passed on in generations. Are we together? I can give us an example. Some people have fathers who are always silent. And then you can see that the father can be able to give birth to a son who is also silent. In that way, the trait was now passed from the what? From the father to the what? To the son. At times, you can see the father is happy or jumpy in terms of, we are going to look at the 4 temperaments. That is the sanguine, melancholy, then choleric, and then what? Phlegmatic. A parent's temperament type can be passed on to one of the offsprings in a given what? Time. So this will determine if you are outgoing and extroverted, or we are shy and introverted as a person. Remember, you can even give birth to people or to children who are of different temperaments. We shall look at that in detail. So, when you define character is the real you. Like, the real you, that what you really are is what is defined as what? Character. So it could be one's inner being or the hidden man of the heart. That is what 1 Peter 3 verse 4 tells us. The character is what you are in reality. You get? What you are inside, you may give us a false impression. That is not your character. But what you are inside, what is basically making up your mind, is the real you, or is your character. You may try to be jolly, you may try to be whatever you may think of, to act to please what? The society. But when inside yourself you know, this is not the Cyrus I know. You get it?
When you're alone, what you do.
What you do when you are alone is what actually defines you.
Different from what you display.
You get? Now, what you display is what you call the personality. The outward expression of the person is what you call the personality. Are we together? So it may or may not be the same as our character. Try to note that difference. It may be the same as your character, as your inner person. Or it may not be the same, depending on how genuine we are. Sometimes some of us are not genuine with ourselves. We give a false impression, yet we know the true impression of ourselves. So it may be the same as our character, or it may be what? Different. And man can put on a pleasing facade to what? To cover up a weak character. Whereby you may be in a place and you give a false image of yourself just because you want to fit in that society. We've seen children who pretend to be what they are not. Yesterday, we had the session we had. It is most common in relationships. You're not open to talk up to say that I am poor, I don't have money. But then you're there, say you're vibing some girl. You want to please this girl, that even if ask for 50,000, I can actually do what? Provide it. You go and borrow money to please the girl. But in actual sense,
And you have not told her
you've not told her that you what?
borrowed.
You've borrowed. So the lady will think, ah man, this guy is loaded. Eh? Kumbe, behind the bars, you know, I'm actually even going to sleep the next 1 hour minus eating anything.
The other she can cost you 3 months.
So that is how our personalities are always going to define us. So your outward expression will now define your personality. Many play of what people expect them to be than who they really are. And God warns us God warns us against that in Matthew chapter 15, verse 18 to 20. It tells us that God, who sees what is our inner what? Our inner self. God sees our inner self, but we may not give our inner self to what? To people to see them. You get?
Because we think about what they are going to say.
So even God warns us against that. See, says, man, if what you're seeing in Cyrus today, pray to God that He can be able to show you who Cyrus is in the inner what? Inner mind. Because God sees what is inside, and then man sees what is what? Outside. Still, when you read in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, you'll get to realize how does the Bible talk about that. You can read there humble. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. What does it say about our personality?
And then he says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life.
I think we've heard what the Bible has told us. Isn't it? So what comes out of your heart may be interpreted differently by people. So let's try to live in our present personalities. Don't try to forge life. Try to be you. People will always understand you more when you are your real self. You get? So at least try to live in accordance to what you are in actual sense. Are we still together? Up to that far? So now we want to look at our personality traits. Grossly, people fall in one of the two categories of personalities. You're either going to be an extrovert or you're going to be an introvert. These words are not new. Who is an extrovert to us?
An extrovert is someone who likes staying with people, like going out. Unlike introverts, who likes isolating themselves inside the house, doing their own things without anyone interfering.
Okay, thank you. Mark, who is an extrovert? At least everyone should give me an answer about an extrovert and an introvert.
For me, an introvert is someone who is everything that is about him, he keeps it inside and he doesn't want to open himself to the people. Then for the extrovert, he's open to the people.
Okay. Mark, who is an introvert or an extrovert to you?
An introvert is one person who likes self-space, they into themselves. They never want to go outside. And okay, when they go, they'll go in some corner, they'll be lonely. They're not so much to share with what they have with others. Not so for an extrovert, they are forgiving, they are forgiving.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you're going to be able to tell us either your neighbor is an introvert or an extrovert. So you'll be able to tell us. So extroverts, these people are interested in what is happening around them. These extroverts, eh? Remember we've said you cannot be out of these two categories. You either one of them. Of recent, I've learned of a new term, the ones that they call ambiverts, eh? And somebody, I don't know how he was able to define, but he was trying to define my personality. And he said, you're more of an introvert, but at one point you're an ambivert. An ambivert. An ambivert is someone who can share an extrovert aspect and an introvert aspect. Whereby, how does this person become an ambivert? When he's around the people he knows, he can speak like a singer machine. You literally open to almost everyone around you that you only know. And then at one point you can be social, like outgoing. However, even if all that is there, they are trying to bring an aspect of you being an ambivert. We know you're either an extrovert or an introvert. So you fall in only those two categories. Those are just categories, I believe, they bring to console themselves. That you are an ambivert, no. At least say that you are an introvert or an extrovert. So an extrovert is going to be interested in what is happening around them. And these guys are open and talkative. That is them. They're always open and what? And talkative. They like action and initiative. These are extroverts. And they compare their opinions with the opinions of what? Of others. Because in the aspect of them being talkative and social, they are going to interact with a lot of people. And now they will take a moment of saying, but is actually what I've said in line with what these other people have what? Have said. So they are going to have that comparative analysis in what they are saying and what they really think should be done. Are we together up to that point? Let us move together. Then we have these introverts. They are interested in their own thoughts. Introverts. For them, they are interested in their own what? In their own thoughts. Even before we go to these details, what are some of the features that you can look at, you can see in a person, and you, assuming you've not had that, what are some of the things that you can look at a person, or you can see in a person and you say this person is an introvert? They are silent. They isolate themselves.
The question would be about isolation. You find someone who is silent but isolated in the group.
Who is what?
Silent but isolated in a group.
Silent but always in the group. It can happen, yeah.
So you have a guy who is silent, you will discuss, but he is silent, not saying anything, but isolated.
The point is about the reluctance in terms of expression, expressing themselves. So you may find someone in the group that they are not expressing themselves freely.
Msao, you had an answer.
Introverts, they meditate so much after themselves that what is that?
Right?
Yeah, saying they fear judgment. They don't. They fear like people are going to judge them. They'll be going to talk negative about them. So they keep to themselves. That is it.
I'm thinking that they're not even affected with whatsoever happening around them. They're not even bothered. Because they are just thinking what is inside them.
No, they can be affected, but they will not say out that they are affected.
So these guys are always interested in their own thoughts. All that you've said is rotating around themselves. And because of that, they need to have their own territory. They believe we need space, we need to think about ourselves, we need to think more about something. And they often appear reserved, quiet, and thoughtful. These introverts. Usually, they do not have many friends.
They like surprising people.
They do not have many friends. And they have difficulties in making what? In making new contacts. So at the end of the day, we said you're going to appreciate who you are and then be able to understand your neighbor. You get? So at least by now, you should be trying to see what is my orientation, what is my personality, and who am I at the end of the day. These guys like concentration and quiet. They are always concentrating and they are quiet. They do not like unexpected visits and do not make them. These guys work well when they are alone. You get? They work well when they are alone. We've already seen where this is initiated. Because they need to have their own territory. And they believe they can do anything alone. Get it? Those are the two personalities. You're either an extrovert or an introvert. Now try to think, where do I fall?